Welcome in episode number 76, baby. Welcome in St0ner Sports Radio Podcast. College football is officially underway, baby. And we got NFL action as well over the course of this week and last week. So we'll go ahead and catch up on that. We'll give you our NFL picks for the year. I know you're just, itching to see who we have in the conference championship games, who we have in the Super Bowl for this season. We'll go visit the sports book. Had a good weekend. If you locked up with me, you locked up. And Zach beat me on overall picks, though. He got me this week, and the rivalry continues as the slim margin between us continues to narrow as we head to season 2 of our head-to-head picks on here. Once again, joining me as usual is friend and co-host Zach Huffman. We're mentioned and best in the business. Zach, how are we doing on this Be Happy Friday?
Hey, man, I'm getting more seasoned with these picks, I'm getting more seasoned with these picks. I still get the bias in there. That's the problem. Because if you notice, one of my locks was Colorado State. That has nothing to do with anything that I support.
Well, hey, I went with you on that.
I
went with you.
You did see. I also picked Oklahoma State to cover the 10-point. So.
Yeah, I think we both lost on our North Dakota picks, or our Dakota picks, I should say. Our Dakota picks kind of fell through a little bit wonky, but hey, we're back, we're ready to rock and roll. So let's go ahead and just kind of roll through kind of some of the top games that we had going around here for this last week. Obviously, Saturday, biggest day of the year for us because we just so happy to have it back. Let's start with kind of a little bit of a homer start here. Oregon beats Idaho by 10. My Ducks scared me a little bit. Dylan Gabriel throws for 380 yards and 2 touchdowns. You would never think that would lead to only a 10-point win, but look, a win's a win. What was kind of your takeaway from this? What people are calling a little bit of a eyebrow raiser out in Eugene.
I'm worried about the defense. I'm sure you're worried about the defense too. Letting Idaho even just 14 on you is crazy, but. The big concern, I think, is, like you said, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns with Dylan Gabriel. I don't think any interceptions. And you win 24-14? Like, what? Is it? I didn't get to catch most of the game. So was it a red zone problem?
So we pitched a shutout in the first half. So we didn't. It was 14-0 at halftime. Yeah. Really, the offense for me was what kind of was an eyebrow raiser because so many yards. Yet I think we kept going 3 and out just past the 50. I think in between the 35 and 45. I think was kind of where some of these drives died at. And so it was too long to kick a field goal. You had to kind of kick it away. But we were moving the ball okay. It was just when the field started to shrink. I don't know what happened. I think it's one of those things where, like you said, preseason, we have these fast wide receivers. But when you shrink the field, they're easier to defend when you have less ground you have to cover. And I think that's kind of what it exposed as far as offensively is the separation. You can run slants all day, but if you've got enough, backers back there in that middle of the field, you're not going to throw that unless you want to get picked off. So I think that was kind of it. The running game looked okay. 96 yards from the leading rusher, 15 carries, and a touchdown for Jordan James. It was okay. It was pedestrian. Nothing special.
Yeah.
It was kind of the week for that, though, with big teams not really finding their running game yet. I think that's kind of one of those things where, again, we're seeing the offensive lines not gel as fast as people think. And I think that just was what happens when you go against competitions that's not your own practice squad.
Yeah. And a big question I have coming out of the game is why isn't Oregon testing the deep threat more against a school like Idaho?
Well, maybe it's the Brent Venables approach. We're not going to throw it deep yet. We're not going to unleash the dogs just yet because we don't feel we have to because of the inferiorness of the opponent you're going against. You feel like you have a little more cushion that you can kind of just, be as vanilla. But, this was almost just white paint. I don't even know if it had any flavoring.
Yeah, but that's my question. Like, why are you trying to hide the deep threat when everybody in the country knows that's going to be your bread and butter throughout the season? You have the 2 fastest receivers in college football, 2 of the top 3 biggest odds to get the Biletnikoff. Like, what are we doing?
I mean, I really think
A win's a win.
I mean, it comes down to I don't want to pull a hammy versus Idaho. I think that might be what it is. If I'm gonna if I'm gonna run streaks, I want it to matter. You know, maybe that's what it is. If I want somebody to pull a quad or a hammy, like let's let it happen against a team like USC or Ohio State, and not have it happen against the damn Vandals. I mean, maybe that's it. I don't know. It's an excuse train. I'm driving an excuse train. I don't. There is no excuses. It was just not impressive.
It wasn't impressive. And I think that's the thing is everybody was expecting kind of this 70-0 victory, from Oregon against Idaho, and it just wasn't there. I mean, did you think the offense would be humming more? It's first week, new quarterback. Obviously Dylan Gabriel didn't seem to be the issue, from what I've gathered. What group on offense are you most worried about?
I don't know if I'm worried about anything other than just if it doesn't look better this week, then we have a problem. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I think I'm still in the camp of we didn't show anything. We didn't feel like we needed to show anything, and the score would indicate we didn't show much, and we just kind of went through the motions a little bit, maybe a little bit too much. But when you throw for 380 yards, I mean, it doesn't really scream going through the motions. But if that's going through the motions, I can't imagine what kind of numbers he's going to put up when we actually start running in the offense. If that's what happened. If that's not what happened,
yeah.
I mean, we're talking about, are we going to make a bowl game? I mean, if that's what's happening, then this could be one of the biggest overrated, shenanigan heists that we've ever seen in our lives. I mean, it could be a disaster if we don't see this thing take off.
Mm-hmm. And this is a team that both of us have playing in the national championship this year, and I mean, they didn't look good, but it's okay.
Yeah,
you think about years past, right? Georgia, Kent State, right? Like a couple years ago, like that. It happens.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes you just don't gel. And I think it's a similar situation where you don't have to. It's really open up the playbook.
Exactly.
You can stick with the basics. You can do coach suggestions like in the game. Just inside zone, jet touch pass. Couple speed options, maybe a couple slants, and then you should come out with a 24-14 victory. I still have questions about the defense. I mean, 14's nothing crazy, obviously. Like, it's 2 touchdowns. It's not like they put up a bad performance, but Idaho shouldn't be getting more than 6 to 9 points. But that's okay. It's first week.
Yeah, and I mean,
if this game was played in week 6, it's probably 63-10.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. I think, and I don't know if even the first string was on the field when they scored that second touchdown. Maybe they were.
There you go.
Maybe they were. I wasn't able to watch it, so I didn't really tune in for most of it, but I kept track of like what was happening. Speaking of dominance, which lacked very much in that game, it did not lack out in the matchup between Georgia and Clemson in the Aflac kickoff game. Early on, a very slow-moving, non-offensive game, 0-0 at the end of the first quarter, 6-0 at halftime. Georgia, you were kind of like, boy, I mean, is this game going to really be close? And then the second half happened, and it was like, oh, no, this is... I don't know what Kirby Smart said at halftime, but they just turned it up and blew out Clemson 34-3. I mean, is this one of those where it's like, hey, Dabo, this is what not using the portal looks like?
I think this is one of those situations where Kirby was like, you want to keep those fucking checks, you better fucking turn it the fuck up at this halftime, because I'm not losing to believe in God, not the portal, Dabo. Like, that's not happening. So I think this was a Kirby thing. I really do. I think Kirby fired them up at halftime, and I mean, this is a home game for Georgia.
Yeah, it was played down there in the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons arena down there. Is that Allegiant down there?
That's Mercedes-Benz.
Mercedes-Benz. Okay. Carson Beck, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not anything to really, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it doesn't move the needle for me. It doesn't scream Heisman winner to me. The score looks like Georgia's the best team in college football right now. But again,
obviously,
how bad is Clemson? Like that's my question. Like Clemson, to me, it felt like they didn't have an offense. I don't know if it would have mattered if they were playing Georgia or not. I don't know if their running back can carry them the way that it looks like he is. Klubnik didn't impress me at all. He's bad. I don't think he's very good.
He's bad.
And I think that's just kind of my analysis of Clemson. How far are they going to drop is more of the question than how good Georgia is. I think Georgia just like you said, you want to keep those checks. You want to make sure you're not, going somewhere else, and down to like JUCO or something. I mean, like it was something in the water at halftime. It was maybe Michael's secret stuff, a la Space Jam. I think maybe some of that, but I think it was one of those where he was embarrassed. They were only up 6-0 at halftime.
So it looks. I guess I haven't seen the new rankings, but it looks like Clemson dropped to number 25.
Okay, I mean that makes sense to me. I mean they're on the verge in my book. I mean if you don't even put up double digits against the number one team, I don't know if you deserve to be ranked.
Sorry, I'm just trying to see if this is the most recent one. All right, September 3rd. Here we go. Yeah, Clemson number 25 dropped 11 spots. They play App State tomorrow.
I mean that could be a good game. That could be a tight one. App State is not to be messed with. They are you don't mess around with them, especially when you're as mid as Clemson looked last week. Unless they turn it up, I don't expect that game to not be like a 35-21, 35-28 squeaker. I think. Yeah,
Clemson has the talent to make that a blowout.
Yeah,
and it should be. Speaking of these rankings, I didn't even realize Oregon drops to number 7.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Do you
feel it's warranted?
Yeah,
deserved?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. No, I mean, and that should light a fire. I think I think you have Dan Lanning going. Look, guys. I mean, they're watching. They watched and they weren't impressed. And we got to turn it up. We got to take over we're playing this week more seriously.
You just got to make it undeniable.
Yeah,
you have 12-0 on the end of your record at the end of the year. It's undeniable.
We should blow Boise State out of the water. If we don't beat Boise State by 28 plus, I'm gonna be pissed because if I don't see Malachi Nelson starting the fourth quarter for the Boise State Broncos, I'm gonna be pissed. I mean, make him play. If you can make him play, you will win the game.
Oh, what a terrible quarterback.
But no, my takeaways from Georgia were dominance and nothing less. Ohio State blows out Akron, the number 2 team in the country. It looks like the number 2 team in the country. Akron's just bad. I mean, Will Howard, 228 yards, 3 touchdowns. We kind of expected him to look like this. He didn't impress me. Again, he's not going to impress anybody. He's just there to throw touchdown passes inside the red zone and hand the ball off to Travion Henderson and hope that, something good happens. Or Krishan Judkins, exactly. Or, somebody in that backfield because 228 yards through 4 quarters of football is pedestrian numbers by this time, this era of college football.
Yeah, and 52 points expected. Yeah. Seems like a lot of teams are just going for around that 50 number. Especially Texas, beat Colorado State 52-0. I was really impressed. I was very impressed with this game. I'm not gonna lie. As a Texas hater, probably the biggest Texas hater to most people. Damn it, this team is top 3.
They look the part. 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick for Quinn Ewers, but that was all in the first half. You have to put that in perspective. That's all first half. Yeah, it's all stats.
In the first half. And Arch looked good. This team they're SEC ready.
Yeah, this is a team that looks like for the next 2 or 3 years to be a playoff team. Like I mean, and especially with the Arch, being there probably, like I said, the next 2 to 3 seasons. Depending on if he decides to go out early or not, depending on how he looks or gets hurt or whatever, I think that this is definitely, a top 12 team, undoubtedly.
I'm ready to say it. I'm ready to say it. Texas is back.
I can't deny it. I think NIL has a huge thing to do with that. I think without NIL, I don't think Texas is where they are at because you saw that happening. I mean, when Charlie Strong took over, I think that was kind of where you saw Texas nosedive, and then Todd Herman just plateaued it. They had like 1 or 2 good years where they were like, maybe you go back to the win against Georgia. They finished top 25 a couple years. And so it was like, maybe they're on the right track, but that's before you're able to pay players. You weren't really pulling players in to want to go down and play in Austin, and now that you can write these big oil money checks, sure, the boys will come play. They'll wear their horns for a couple mil. It's gonna happen. So I think that's what you're looking at is how NIL has rejuvenated the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the same is going to apply to OU. It's seeming to work. Our recruiting has been amazing the last couple of weeks. OU with the win against Temple, 51-3, jumps from number 16 to number 15 in the AP poll. Nothing too impressive. I think justifiably OU didn't look too impressive in this game. I don't know if you watched, but O-line didn't look great. They were down a lot of starters, and I get it. Still, it's Temple. I think the O-line has to be better. I don't care if it's our third string. They should be better than Temple's, starting O-line or D-line, and that just pisses me off. But a lot of injuries on the line, so I'm not too upset about it. We got to see a little bit of Michael Hawkins Jr., who looks promising. I'm really excited for him at the next about 2 years from now, probably. But yeah, biggest concern is obviously the O-line. Some people are bringing up Jackson Arnold's lack of yardage, only averaging like 5 yards per attempt. I want to put in perspective how many turnovers the defense got. The defense got 6 turnovers. I think they were all fumbles. Not a single one was an interception. It was straight fumbles. I remember them being fumbles.
There was a tip pick for sure. I remember that.
Oh yeah, there was the tip pick. Yeah,
and I don't know if there was.
That was off a big ass hit.
Yeah,
and
then I think Woody got one too, right?
I did leave. I did leave at the end of the third quarter.
There was definitely a pick in the fourth quarter. So I mean, I think there were two picks, 4 fumbles. I think is probably what it was. Fumbles are bad too. Two quarterback
just
fumbles,
hitting the shit out of them too.
Getting rocked. I mean,
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed a little bit. I'm not as impressed as I was hoping to be. Jackson Arnold looks good. I'll give him that. He looks really good. His yardage was low because field position. We're getting turnovers already in the red zone. I mean, it's hard to get 300 yards if you're not even working with 30 yards of space every time you get the ball. I thought the O-line definitely was a concern. The run game could have been better. Didn't look great. Tatum looked pretty good. I'm happy with Tatum. But I'll tell you what, on this defensive line, man,
scary.
This defensive line is good.
Scary. I mean, this is almost Tommy Harris days.
Jackson, man.
Yeah, this is almost Thomas Harris era good. When you
this
have
D-line
the
is insane.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those generational, I think, defensive lines, and I think when SEC play comes around, I think that's your biggest asset for sure right now. Obviously, losing Farouk for 8 weeks with a broken foot is huge for you guys as well, but you're so deep at wide receiver. I think that's one of those benefits, right? You have Petway coming back this week. Anthony's going to be kind of in and out. They're still kind of trying to move him in. He does look a lot different than he did pre-ACL tear. I think you saw that they didn't have him in very long. Obviously, Nick Anderson sitting out again this week with that hit pointer. They're just because they know they don't need him. I mean, when a team like Houston gets beat by UNLV the way they did, I don't think you're worried about having those guys sit out. If this was a Houston team of like 10 years ago, maybe we're having a different conversation. But Dana Holgerson ain't walking through that door. Case Keenum ain't walking through that door. So just chill out. It's just not a good team. So I think they're in a good position here. I think that they need to just take care of business, do what they need to, and prep for Tennessee. I think that's kind of the big thing right here is just trying to get the boys ready for the Volunteers.
Yeah, and the Volunteers, they look good. They look big. I'm glad we get to play them at home. A little bit more comfort for the boys, but I think this defensive line. I'm saying right now this D-line is probably the second best in the country. Obviously, looking at Georgia. But I have no issue calling Oklahoma's D-line the second best in the country, second best in the SEC. If this team, and this is a big if, because I still have a lot of questions on offense, if this team is to make the playoff, it will be on the back of the defense.
Yeah, and the thing is if they can keep it up and look like they did, then that'll be fine. If it regresses due to increase in talent, then you kind of can start asking questions. But until that happens, I'll agree with you. I think the Tennessee game will be a good gauge to see exactly where they're at, because right now you're just going against people you should be able to push around. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, and the thing is, while I wasn't super impressed with OU, we still win 51-3.
Yeah. I mean,
cover the spread. I mean, like it's still good.
Yeah. It was peachy. It was peachy, but it's one of those things where there were glaring issues that you have to kind of take away, and that's just kind of what it is being a fan of a team like OU. Now speaking of more top 10 results here, Alabama took care of Western Kentucky 63-0. 200 yards for Jalen Milroe, 3 touchdowns. Probably most of that happening in the first half as well. I'm sure they pulled him.
Yeah.
Looking good. I mean, Western Kentucky's bad. I don't know what else you want to say about that other than next.
Hey, I love my toppers, but also, I mean, I just want to point out Alabama looks like Alabama, and I think that's the biggest question that a lot of people had going into this season is Alabama going to stay like Alabama? And I think they are. Obviously new coach with DeBoer. I think this team I think they're a playoff team. I don't see why not. Preseason, I probably didn't have them in the SEC championship. I probably still don't have them in the SEC championship. As of right now, I'm going Georgia, Texas, but this team is probably a playoff team, probably the third SEC team to get into the playoff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you can say about that. What about Ole Miss though? 76-0.
Damn.
And if they could have scored 100. Like, I mean, let's be honest. Only 3 points in the fourth quarter. Like, you could have scored 100. And Jackson Dart looking like a Heisman candidate, 418 yards, 5 touchdowns, and probably a half, I believe.
It was literally only the first half.
Yeah. So I mean,
that man could have gone for 1,000.
Yeah, Furman's bad. Let's just be honest. Furman's bad.
Furman's terrible.
Furman's terrible. I don't know if you could look bad against Furman unless you're literally the last team in a Group of 5 conference. So they did what they were supposed to do, a little bit more. Looked like OU last year against Arkansas State, just kind of slaughtered them.
God.
So I mean, it doesn't indicate
touchdown on every drive.
Yeah, it doesn't indicate how the season's going to go for the Rebels, but they did what they were supposed to, and a little bit more. So good for them.
Yeah, and they looked really good doing it, but I think this is kind of a situation, like you said, where it's you can't really judge them too hard. It's like we're not going to call Auburn a top 5 team because they won 70-0.
Yeah. So it's like no. And here was the nightcap was pretty good. Texas A&M Notre Dame 23-13. Riley Leonard and company get it done. Not a pretty football game to watch by any means, but it was close to the end and one that kept your attention just in that respect. You like to see Texas A&M when they're bad. I love watching the Aggie fans just crumble and just realize that Connor Wegman is a piece of shit. I mean, he's just bad. Yeah. He's just bad, and the
he's
thing
just not good. But the rest of the team is decent.
Yeah, the rest of the team is good, but the most important.
And goddamn, Field was loud.
Oh no, yeah, it was loud. I mean, you saw that Notre Dame had some false starts, had some things that they had to deal with, but in the end, this was more about just the defense of Marcus Freeman's group just clamping down. A lot of 4th down stops. Very aggressive play calling by Texas A&M. I liked it. I mean, they needed to. I didn't think they didn't need to, but overall, I don't know how much you learn about Notre Dame from this. I still think they're mid. I think they're highly overrated. I don't think that they're a playoff team. I really don't. Their schedule helps them out a ton. I'll give you that. The schedule helps them out a ton, where it seems like they would really have to have a toilet bowl year to not be thought about. But remember, they signed that thing that said if we make the playoff, we don't get a first round bye, no matter if we're undefeated or not, and that's why they remain independent. So even if they do have a good year, you're still going to see them possibly even having to travel on the road in the first round if they do make it. So I don't think this is a team that gets past the first round of the college football playoff if they do make it. I don't really believe in them just yet, and I don't think beating Texas A&M really proves anything.
My thing about Notre Dame, I think they looked pretty good. And like you said, their schedule is cupcake. I don't know who they have to play after this. I mean, what's their toughest opponent after A&M?
I will tell you right now. I'm looking at their schedule this week. They've got Northern Illinois. Looks like the toughest one on their schedule is USC at the end of the year. As of right now, they play Louisville in 3 weeks. They've got Georgia Tech on here. Those are the only 2, because the other ones are Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, and Army. So, I mean...
Yeah, so, I mean, this team should, based on their schedule, be in the playoff. Obviously, a couple teams in there could give them an upset. But, I would pick Notre Dame in all of those games. I think this is probably a playoff team. I don't think they're better than other teams. I don't think they're better than LSU. Even though USC beat them, I just... I that game was weird. I didn't like it. Um, we'll talk about that one in a minute.
Yeah.
But I do think Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman's defense looked really good. I think this is probably a playoff team. I think they're probably going to be the number 5 team in the country out of when we get into the playoff, giving them that obviously not a first round bye, but they will have a home field playoff game, and they will be against the Group of 5 champion when they do so.
And I'm going to take the Group of 5 champion to win straight up. Yeah, no, it's happening. If it's Notre Dame, it's happening. Now to a game that I was very intrigued in, and I didn't get to watch any of this because I was inside the movie theater watching the new Alien movie, which is very good, by the way. Go see it. But
I haven't seen it. I've heard a lot of good things.
It didn't disappoint, and I don't spend money on movies. I go to like 2 a year. Like, it was worth every penny. I went to Flicks and got wasted and bought everything on the menu, and it just was fat.
Hell yeah!
And then I went home and I drank and I watched football because I'm a man, and this is America, and that's what you do on Saturdays.
This is America. Hey, listen, liberals aren't going to want to hear that. All right,
I'm getting canceled. But
getting canceled. Can I crack a beer real quick, or I'm gonna get canceled?
But no, Penn State, West Virginia. Penn State gets the win 34-12. Yeah. It was 20-6 at halftime. West Virginia, look, they came out with some fire. They came out with the crowd of hillbillies behind them like I thought they would. They went scoreless in the first quarter with Penn State, so it looked pretty like it was going to be an okay game, like I thought it was going to be. And then turnovers, just bad play overall, and just no touchdowns. I mean 4 field goals. I mean, you can't do that. Those field goals could have easily been touchdowns. If they're touchdowns, that you might even win this game. It was about finishing drives for West Virginia. It looks like that's going to be a tough ask when the field gets short for them to end up with 7. And I think that, it kind of changes my whole perspective on kind of where I think West Virginia is at, because I really thought they were going to kind of put up a little bit more of a fight. And I just think when you fail in the red zone like that, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, and I'm gonna agree with you. I thought West Virginia was going to win this game, and I'm not even gonna act about that. I really thought West Virginia was going to win this game off the strength of them being at home with the crowd of hillbillies behind them. But like you said, being conservative in short field situations kind of cost them here. You might win this game if those are touchdowns instead of field goals. You still need you would still need another tutty there, but God damn it, it's a lot closer.
Yeah. And the thing is who knows how Penn State performs under pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a totally different game if you really put the pressure on the Nittany Lions. And the Nittany Lions didn't super impress me. Drew Aller threw for 216 yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, short field kind of scenario, just kind of like Jackson Arnold, some turnovers, back on your own side of the field, kind of help you with keeping those numbers a little lower than the score maybe indicates. But overall, West Virginia's defense didn't really give up as many points as I thought they were. After it was 20-6, I'm like, oh, this could get ugly. I'm like, oh, this could be 42-10, like 42-13. And we're sitting here like, but it didn't. Only 2 touchdowns in the second half. So I think that you kind of look at that and you go, maybe West Virginia's defense isn't really that bad. They're probably a little bit above average, but the offense did not look good.
The offense did not look good. Did not look good at all. Garrett Green needs to be better. But yeah, I was pretty impressed by the defense. I think it had a lot more to do with them being at home than anything. I think if this game is played, at Penn State, this shit is a 52-0 blowout.
Yeah, they run probably. It out. They run it out. They run it up because they're at home. They run it up.
Yeah, and that's really the difference with this game. I think I don't know if you can put. I like what AP did with their poll this week. They just left Penn State exactly where they were. They had no reason to move them up. They had no reason to move them down. They knew exactly. One, this was a tough environment, and Penn State pulled out the win. It could have been more impressive. It could have been by a higher margin, but you have to remember how hard it is to play in Morgantown.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads us into the next game, which is Michigan Fresno State. Now, this game got tight late. This thing was tight late. Orgy did not throw the ball at all. He had 4 throwing attempts. They had Warren, the backup, in there. I guess they're having a 2-quarterback system here, Zach. One's a running quarterback, one's a throwing quarterback. I think that, like people say, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterback. I think that's kind of the case here for Michigan because the offense did not look very impressive at all. Donovan Edwards didn't even play very well at all. It was really Khalil Mullins that led the way with 15 carries for 92 yards. Didn't even see Donovan Edwards. Hello, cover athlete. Where you at? Nowhere to be.
This team is not impressive.
No, they're not impressive. And if without that pick six in the red zone, literally Fresno State knocking on the door to tie this thing up, and you throw a pick six at the 15-yard line. I mean, I felt like I was playing college football 25, and I was taking that thing to the house. So I was like, oh, I take that shit to the house all day, every day, because it's a stupid pass. And sure enough, my man Mikey Keene out here, who played a hell of a game, 225 yards, touchdown. But those two picks, man, you got to clean that up. I get it, it's Michigan. I get the defense looked pretty good. But you had a chance to go and tie this game and really make Michigan fans go, wow, this drop-off is bad. What was your takeaway? Because my takeaway was, like you said, just super unimpressed, and they're on the verge, to me, of looking like a team that doesn't have a prayer of repeating at all.
I think it's one. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to repeat. I don't think they're going to sniff a repeat. I don't even know if they make the playoff. But they have a championship hangover. I mean, I think it's that simple. One, no McCarthy. I think that's a big part of it. No Harbaugh. I think that's a bigger part of it. I think simply put, this team just didn't look like they were trying. I think they kind of knew they were going to win the game no matter what, which, like, probably, right? It's Fresno State. But, god damn it, put some effort in there. I mean, let's, like, up front, they didn't look like they were trying too hard. And like you said, the quarterback situation, they got to figure that shit out. Because you're not going to go from a McNamara-McCarthy situation and then pick McCarthy, and then you're going to all of a sudden decide to do a two-quarterback situation. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Jerome Moore has to be better. The investigation probably has a little bit to do with it as well. I mean, this team is under investigation. There's a lot going around about Michigan. There's a lot going around about Connor Stallions. I think that, one, I don't think that Connor Stallions necessarily did anything wrong. I think he was just better than everybody else. But yeah, this team, I think there's so many distractions. I think they're what's the word? They're content, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And look, we're almost done here with top 10 teams that played over the last weekend.
Well, hold on. I do want to just do a little fast forward here. Michigan's going to get their ass beat by Texas next week.
Okay, yeah, we could. Yeah, we're gonna cover that for sure.
Yeah.
So what we're doing this season, folks, is when we do our sports books, that's when we talk about the games for next week. It's kind of group that whole conversation into one thing for y'all. So hopefully that'll be something that'll be a little bit more intriguing. So we're definitely gonna dive into that because I guarantee you, both of us are picking Texas to cover, baby. They're covering, baby. So just stay tuned for that because that might be a lock. We might padlock that one. Because that's just how unimpressive Michigan was, and that should really be alarming to some Wolverine fans because reality is about to hit, and it's going to be ugly.
Oh, yeah.
So just strap in for that, boys. A good kickoff time, too, for that, 11 o'clock in the morning Central, 12 Eastern. Get the beer popping early because those pads are going to be popping, and it's going to be ugly for the
Blue. It's going to be 73 degrees. It's going to be beautiful football weather.
Speaking of beautiful... how about Nico and the Volunteers, 69-3? Chattanooga. I think Chattanooga and Furman would have a good game because they got roasted. And I mean, it was again a 314-yard, 3-touchdown performance for the freshman, looking clean, and he should. I mean, this is the Chattanooga team that's terrible. I think you didn't really learn much about Tennessee. They did what they were supposed to, and we're just gonna wait and see. How it goes against NC State. I think that's going to be a good gauge. If they can beat NC State by 20+, I think you're looking at a real team. If they even beat them by 10, I would say that's okay. But NC State didn't look very good at all. They were in a dogfight with Western Carolina for most of that game. So that wasn't a good look for the Wolfpack, and that doesn't bode well going against the Volunteers this weekend. So I think we're going to for sure be talking about that matchup when we get to the sports book. But overall, Tennessee, good job.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. All of those, Nico did all that in the first half. I'm pretty sure. I'm a little bit worried about what's going to happen about 9 days from now between OU and Tennessee. We'll obviously cover that later, next week. But god damn it!
Yeah,
hey, this is what we signed up for.
Yeah, this is it. But I think it bodes well for the future of the SEC when you look at him and Arch and Jackson. Or I mean, even maybe not even Jackson, Michael Hawkins Jr. and Arch and him maybe if this thing goes the direction we think it might go here. So the future of the SEC quarterbacks looking good right now. We'll see if that continues. Who else looked good was Washington State transfer and man of my nightmares, Cam Ward, went buku bananas against Billy Napier in the pitiful Florida Gators. I mean, 41-17, got their asses just handed to them on a silver platter. Is Miami like for real? Like, are we looking at a playoff team here? They're 19 in the country right now, right? Did they move up any more than that? Or they were 19 last week. What did they move up to?
They are now number 12.
Okay, so I mean, 7 spots. I think it's respectable. I mean, if the playoff were to start now, you're right on the doorstep, right? If they were doing it that way. I think,
they'd be the first out right now.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you're looking at a possible, if they can keep it up and he stays healthy, this team looks like it might be back. I think Mario Cristobal might have found himself a team that doesn't screw up how to take a knee.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see about that. Georgia Tech's still in this conference.
Yeah, that's right.
And hey, Georgia Tech doesn't look bad. I agree. Miami looks good. I mean, we have already talked about Miami in previous episodes. I mean, this team is going to win the ACC, I think. Who they play, fuck if I know anymore. But,
yeah.
Looking like Georgia Tech, I guess.
Yeah, my Florida State pick looking sad, boys. We're going to get to that here in a minute. But looking bad for looking pretty good for Miami as far as prospects of winning the ACC. And as we peruse down here, this is, I mean, I don't know if they moved into the top 10 or not, but Arizona and New Mexico, this game was not supposed to be good. It ended up being pretty good, and in the end, it got pretty ugly, 61-39, but that doesn't really paint the picture of how close this game really was. Look, you had an all-time performance by Mr. McMillan, 10 receptions, 300 yards, and 4 touchdowns, 1 on the ground as well to make it 5 total for him on the night. Just a very impressive performance offensively for Arizona. Definitely going to be something to watch as Big 12 play gets underway here in a couple of weeks. I think they're definitely a threat to possibly win the conference if they can keep up this kind of performance. But newsflash, not everybody's defense is as bad as New Mexico, and not everybody's quarterback is going to make some of those boneheaded mistakes that you saw Dampier make. But I mean, bless his heart, he played his heart out. But when he scrambled and threw that pick when they were only down 7, he just forced it in there and threw a really ugly ball. I don't know if you watched that game; it was really late. But he was scrambling, he was doing some Patrick Mahomes shit, and just decided I can fit it between these 2 defenders. And boy, was that ball thrown like 5 yards behind the intended receiver and right into the hands of an Arizona linebacker. And then after that, it was just over. They got on a roll. The confidence was gone. The shell shock set in, and Bronco Mendenhall, all the joy in his face in the first half went whap whap.
Yeah, and like you said, this team, they didn't look too impressive. Obviously, 61-39 doesn't really paint the full picture. They shouldn't have even had it that close. This team moves up 1 spot in the AP poll to number 20.
I mean,
sitting there between Kansas and Iowa.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right because of the opponent. I mean, look, Dampier is a baller. This guy's going to get big NIL money if he has any eligibility left, because 130 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 15 carries. I mean, that's something that a team can use, and I'm sure they were looking at him thinking that, maybe if he was in the right system, he could really be dangerous, because I think he kind of was the victim of bad offensive line play and just not having the talent around him to really compete with Arizona. Like I said, they found a way to keep that game close, even midway through the third quarter, but turnovers just can't do it against a team like Arizona. You know that. You turn it over against Arizona that many times, you're losing. You're losing.
Hey, fuck you, man.
Catching strays out here. I had to do it. That sword was full. The sword was full again.
Yeah.
Against,
it worried me last year. That was the big worry with St0ner was those interceptions. But luckily it's looking. I don't know.
I mean, it's Temple. Yeah, it's Temple. Chill out. We'll relax if he can do it for 2
We'll see against Tennessee.
Yeah, let's see if those.
Which interesting in the poll. Tennessee is number 14. OU is number 15. I think that's obviously the setup they are going for.
Yeah, they're wanting that to be
3.
Possible game of the week material there.
2 top 10 teams possibly.
Iowa takes care of Illinois State 40-0. Nothing to take away there other than, guess what? 3 touchdowns from McNamara. We got points on the board, baby. We got points on the board. 40 points. They might as well have scored 140 in Iowa points. I mean,
seriously, this shit was exciting. I don't know when the last time I saw Iowa score 40 was. That shit was awesome.
4 years ago.
They have a fucking offense, and now we know that this team can be dangerous.
Yeah, they can be. And And I think that was a big thing. Look, 6-0 at halftime against Illinois State did not make it seem like that was going to be the case. When I saw that, I was like 6-0. I was like, well, this looks like just a repeat of defense.
Like
this is a good old boys game right here.
First drive was a punt, I believe, and I was like, here we go.
Yeah,
love this shit. Love a good punt game.
Punt game.
Seriously, I like seeing a good punt.
Yeah, Kirk Ferentz was like, all right, I've seen this movie before, and then all of a sudden, second half happens, and McNamara pops off and goes for 250 yards passing. Hello, who is this? Is this? I mean, maybe
Iowa has a quarterback?
Maybe some of the kids in the hospital actually perked their head up from their cancer comas.
Yeah, shit, is that the offense?
Yeah, like you actually woke some people up from comas in that children's hospital. I mean, he's saving lives. They couldn't believe it. That was what that's what we've been waiting on for 4 years.
Jesus Christ.
Anyways, so the Big Ten, maybe a little bit more animosity than we maybe anticipated heading into the season. So hopefully they can keep that up and McNamara stays healthy. That was the big thing last year, and I think that just proves that him not being on the field does definitely cripple this offense for sure. Anyways, moving on to upset of the week. Upset of the week, folks. Upset
points cured cancer.
Yeah. Who needs St. Jude when you have Iowa
All
football?
you needed was 40 points from Iowa.
God was just chilling, and all of a sudden flipped through the scoreboard and said, "Oh shit!
I
gotta well, that was on my bingo card. Let me fix little Timmy up real quick. There's that bone marrow transplant you've been waiting on. Just happened to be in the lobby walking through.
Really, it just seemed like the earth and heavens moved for Iowa here.
The planets aligned. Dogs and cats were making out. It was weird. But yeah, so that was kind of what was happening up there in Kinnick Stadium. But upset of the week, folks. Upset of the week. Vanderbilt going into Hokie Town and bringing it down.
SEC.
And I mean, look, it was a good performance by Kyron Drones. I picked him to throw 2 touchdowns. He threw 2 touchdowns and 322 yards. I mean, if you give me that stat line against a Vanderbilt team, I'm saying you're getting a W. But Vanderbilt has a quarterback. New Mexico State transfer. Pavia, my man Pavia out there.
Diego show. It's Diego time.
A DP out here just giving him all the business. I mean, I love a good DP, and he was giving it to him both ends. And is Virginia Tech now like one of those teams where it's like we just have to like go back to like even like what like 2007 for them to be good? I mean, it just seems like they just haven't been good in so long, and they've had some decent teams, but they just haven't been able to do anything. And I think ever since Frank Beamer left, it's just been a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, this team was supposed to make some noise this season, and Vandy just comes in and beats the shit out. I mean, doesn't beat the shit out of them, but
it feels like
Vandy.
it, though.
If you lose, they beat the shit out of you. And like you said, Diego Pavia just fucking amazing. I mean, he was, but you got to remember, this team is going to live and die by Diego.
Yes, correct.
If Diego has a bad game, they're losing. And listen, if Vandy somehow makes a little noise, expect him in New York. He's not going to win the thing, but expect him there. Fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, if his team even sniffs like a 7-win season, you'll be thinking this dude's the next coming of Jesus Christ if you're a Vanderbilt fan. Because when we looked at this schedule, we were like, Vanderbilt stinks. This is probably a 2 or 3 win team. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember what we said, but I know we weren't high on them because it's Vanderbilt.
2, 3.
Yeah, I mean it must not have been pretty.
Tech.
I mean, but now it's like, I mean, you do something like that and you really look that good. I mean, again, this is what college football is about. You don't know going in. You don't ever know how a change of scenery is going to affect a kid or how it's going to affect a team as a whole. And right now, you're getting to see the transfer portal and NIL do its work and put these players that are in bad positions in better positions, and in turn, making teams a little bit better and a little bit more competitive against teams that they otherwise wouldn't be. And I think that's the benefit of having this system in here. I know a lot of people hate it, and I get it. You're going to be top heavy. It's going to happen. But that's just the way it is. You win games, you make money, you get people's attention, they give it to you, donations, players, wins. I mean, that's the way it is now, and I think that it makes sense that way, and I don't think you're going to really see much difference. I mean, I know that it used to be, if you're winning games and you've got some cool uniforms and you got a decent, facility, you can get some 4 or 5 star guys, but now you got to start handing out them checks. You got to start handing out them checks, and Unfortunately, Boone Pickens ain't walking through that door. Unfortunately, these big Oilers that we used to have are not going to be able to buy teams. Because can you imagine if T. Boone was alive? You know how good Oklahoma State would be? He'd be writing checks till his arthritis and carpal tunnel just completely solidified.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm surprised that Oklahoma State hasn't gotten more of their checks because this is a team that has money.
Oh, yeah.
This is a program that has money. They have the alum. They have the donors. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you. I noticed that Oklahoma State was teasing a new number retirement for next week. They were covering it up on their stadium. Do you know who that could be?
Oh, I don't.
My guess is it Rudolph?
No shot. I mean, you would put Brandon Whedon up there before you put Rudolph up
Is
there.
it Whedon? It's probably. I bet it's Whedon.
If it's not, it can't be Blackman. They wouldn't bring him back for that. Can you do that? I mean, I guess all of his problems happened after school, like that really affected his life.
It can't be Tyreek Hill, can it? Like,
I mean, it can. I mean, I wish it would.
I think it's probably Whedon. If I had to guess, it's probably Whedon.
And if
not, they're just gonna go ahead and say, "Fuck it, Bowman, you've been our dog." You know.
I mean, and if it is somebody from if it's Rashawn Woods or somebody, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know.
It's got to be somebody from the 2011 team, if I had to guess. Because I don't even know when the last retirement was. Well, I just saw it was a picture of the stadium. They had it covered up.
You know who it is? It's Leslie O'Neal, the defensive lineman from that's who it is. Leslie O'Neal, big old dude. Or is he a wide receiver?
No, he's a defensive lineman.
Okay, defensive lineman. That's what I thought. Defensive lineman. Okay, yep.
And he played
Rookie of the Year in the NFL in 1986. 132 NFL sacks, 21 forced fumbles, 16 fumbles for 3 picks, and 2 defensive touchdowns in the league. 6-time Pro Bowler. So yeah, that's a Big 8 Defensive Player of the Year, 1984, 3-time First Team All Big 8, 83, 84, 85. Los Angeles Chargers Hall of Famer. It's about time. A little late, in my opinion.
He was. I'm looking at the stats. He also returned punts for Oklahoma State.
There you go. So,
never mind. He returned 1 punt.
Okay. That's
34 yards.
Hey, stat stuff. 34 yards is not nothing. You barely see a punt go for 34 yards on a return these days.
Yeah, and they don't have a ton of stats from 84, 85 still listed in too many spots, but he did get an interception in 85 and tons of solo tackles.
Yeah, he was a monster. So good for Leslie O'Neal, but that'll answer your question. So nobody recent. We're once again just delaying people that should already be on there. Anyway.
Yeah.
Not really much else to wrap up. Nebraska looked good against UTEP, 40-7. Nothing really to say other than UTEP is bad. Nebraska should have beaten that bad. It was, people were going to praise Dylan Raiola's performance, but at 238 yards and 2 touchdowns doesn't get me erect. But it's what you should have done. It's the minimum you could have done, and you did it. And you probably didn't even play the second half. It was 30-7 at halftime. Maybe you played a couple drives in the third. But I'm sure they probably pulled him early. Nothing really else to really cover on that front. I'm scrolling down here.
I do want to say I want to disagree a little bit on the Raiola comment. I think he's special. Dude is Pat Mahomes Jr. Dude can throw the damn ball running. He can slide. He can side sling it. Dude's talented.
8-5.
He's their savior.
9-4. Texas
8-5 this year. 8-5 this year. 10-2 next year.
So they're just Texas Tech Mahomes era. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think they're gonna win a natty.
No, I don't think anybody ever.
This team can do some nice stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely the case. But yeah, so that kind of wraps up Nebraska. The only other thing to talk about now is Florida State. Florida State is in shambles, folks. Florida State is in shambles. They've already played their second game. They don't play this weekend. They went ahead and decided to lose to Boston College like a bunch of chumps. So, I mean, I just go ahead and just give me your Florida State take here, because I know that's probably the only thing people care about.
Um, Team looks shit. I mean, top. I guess technically top 10, right? Even though they didn't have any ranking drop off after their Week 0 loss to Georgia Tech over there in Ireland, but DJU looks terrible. This team doesn't look good. The front, like this is my big concern with Florida State, right? Is like their front looks okay, right? Like their front lines, their O line, their D line, they look big and they look like Florida State O line and D lines. Their skill positions are so bad. DJ, you can't throw a ball past the line of scrimmage.
Well, and the amount of drops were also concerning. I mean, their tight end couldn't catch a ball to save his life. He had like 4 of them hit him in the hands, and 2 of them were for first downs, and he just dropped it, man. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You know, like these skill position guys, they're just not there. And I mean, defensively too, like skill positions defensively, the secondary got cooked.
Well, I mean, the defensive line didn't look very good at all. Like you said, physically they look like they're NFL ready, but they just were not. I mean, the offensive line for Boston College pushed them around like a bunch of chumps. I mean, it was just like, what is going on? They were just forcing it down their throat. Every time I thought, all right, here's where Boston College collapses, they just wouldn't do it. They just wouldn't fold. And guess who ended up folding? DJU, FSU, everything U. I mean, it was just bad. So I commend Boston College for doing what they did. We already talked about Georgia Tech and just kind of what they did already in the last episode. We kind of went over that and just kind of how, you know, we were like, I said, look, it's first game. I'm not concerned about Florida State. I still think they're ACC competitive. And boy, did I get my ass handed to me on that. I'm eating crow like I'm on Always Sunny eating that, you know, crow fight. Puke your guts out. Fight milk.
What we got here?
But yeah, so nothing really to take away from that. I guess we can touch on this for a little bit. The Texas Tech Abilene Christian game. I mean, it was a good game to watch. Anything you have thoughts on that at all?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the Discord here.
Oh, nothing. We got it. Got it.
I was sitting here. I was like,
don't worry. He's like 13. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering what was going on there.
I muted him. It's okay. But he I think he was just listening.
Sorry, I had to be distracted.
Trying to get a little bit. The Texas Christian, the Abilene Christian Texas Tech game. I mean, it was entertaining, but it just made me think Texas Tech is terrible.
Yeah, I think that's the only takeaway I had. I mean, ACU's not bad. Like that's a okay team, but against Texas Tech, like, yeah, should have been 49-14. I'm not impressed with Tech at all.
No, it's bad. What was your takeaway from the USC LSU game that happened on Sunday? That was the only Sunday game. I know you were disappointed in the final result, and you were very disappointed that Miller Moss threw 378 yards and a touchdown and looked like the next coming of a Lincoln Riley Heisman, candidate quarterback. I mean, but is this more about how bad LSU is?
I'll tell you what, I'm pissed. I don't know why Lincoln Riley had to wait so fucking long to get a defense. I mean, seriously, we could have won 3 natties. If we had that defense that played against LSU, OU has 3 natties, and that shit pisses me off because, I mean, what the fuck? How are you holding number 13 LSU, who has a high flying offense every year, no matter what? Their offense is always going to be top 5. You hold them to 20. Neutral field. Shit.
I mean, and the thing is like,
I'm gonna have to say it, and I don't want to say it, but USC is probably a top 10 team, and this shit pisses me off. We'll see next week.
Yeah.
I don't know who they play next week, but over the course of having to play these teams like Oregon, having to play these teams, I don't know if they play Ohio State.
They do not play Ohio State. They've got Utah State tomorrow, and that should be a win. But then they've got Michigan after that. They got Penn State on the schedule, Nebraska, and Notre Dame to close the season out. So I mean, still a chance to go 9-3, 8-4 if they don't play up to snuff. But again, I mean, that's if they don't play up to snuff. And again, like you said, having a defense has changed the outlook of this USC team drastically. And like you said, if he gets rid of Alex Grinch when he's at OU, I think you guys literally beat Georgia and win probably a national championship against Alabama. And you probably win another one right after that. I mean, it could have been back to back if you just get rid of Alex Grinch, but he just had to wait to do that until things started caving in out there in LA.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. But listen, I'm happier with Brent Venables still. But Lincoln Riley's, I wasn't actually as impressed with the offense as I thought I would be. This isn't the typical Lincoln Riley offense that you're used to seeing. Yes, Miller Moss had a good game and had a ton of yardage. 27 points is not a Lincoln Riley offense. Still have a little bit of concern there. I'm still not sold on Miller Moss. I thought LSU did play terribly, and playing terribly still managed to get only a touchdown loss here. USC moves up to number 13, takes LSU's spot. LSU moves down to number 18. I think USC is going to be knocking on the door of the college football playoff come into the year. They obviously still have to play some of these bigger teams, but they look good. They looked good against a good team, which is really important, especially early in the season. And I think that's going to do a lot for them moving forward, confidence-wise. Last year they weren't looking very confident heading into, later games in the season. Obviously, had taken a couple losses, and all of a sudden, they have 5 losses with the Heisman winner on. Didn't look great, but now they're looking good. They have the confidence. They beat LSU early, first game of the season, beat LSU. Every game after this is going to be high confidence until they run into Oregon and get their ass beat.
Yeah, no, I think that might be true. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up week 1. I mean, we're pretty much, that's the games that matter. Now on to other things that matter. The NFL season is underway, baby. We're here. NFL season is here. Had a good game last night between Kansas City and Baltimore. We'll touch on that for sure. But overall, I mean, this is definitely more about just the fact that football season officially is underway now. Let's go ahead and just kind of analyze the game we saw last night for just a couple minutes here. What was kind of your takeaway from Kansas City escaping by a toe against Baltimore?
First takeaway is Lamar Jackson outplayed Patrick Mahomes. And I don't think that's an unpopular take here. Patrick Mahomes had 2 interceptions. Lamar Jackson leads the game-winning drive. Obviously, not the last play result that we probably wanted collectively as fans. Kansas City escapes by a toe, very similar to the KD situation against the Bucks in 2021. Hate to see it end like that. And I think the Ravens knew that they kind of had the Chiefs, by the throat already. I think we're probably going to see a rematch. I don't know. I'm still big on Houston, but I think this could be a rematch for the AFC Championship. So I'm excited. I think that the Ravens played really well. Obviously, the refs were not on Baltimore's side. Obviously, trying to make some emphasis calls early in the season, as they always do. I don't know why they all had to be against Baltimore. Couple of false starts that probably shouldn't have been called. Couple of, obviously, those illegal formation penalties. I mean, Jesus Christ, can we play some fucking football? But I was impressed by both teams. I thought that Kansas City didn't look as good as they could have offensively. I think Xavier Worthy is the new Tyreek Hill, and is exactly what Patrick Mahomes needs. So I think this team is on the verge of a three-peat here. Just off the sheer fact that they fixed what I thought their biggest issue was last year, and that was the receiving room. I think they have fixed that. Obviously, they got Juju Smith-Schuster back. He almost cut a touchdown, just kind of barely missed it. Xavier Worthy's back. Rashee Rice looks good. How he didn't get suspended, I don't know. But he looked good. New slant boy.
And you still have Marquise Brown that's coming back from injury too, so that's another speed guy that you could possibly have at your disposal, which is dangerous. It's dangerous.
With Patrick Mahomes, that's dangerous because he's so accurate on those deep balls.
Yeah, well, and even under duress and on the run, it's miraculous, some of the ball placement. And we saw some pretty good ball placement from Lamar as well on the run, that touchdown to Likely. I know he did most of the work there, but that ball was delivered perfectly. It was still a first down even if he doesn't score. So the pass was still beautiful. And somehow Likely was able to maneuver his way into the end zone. Big night for him. Obviously, Mark Andrews looked a little bit hollow. But we'll see if that continues.
He looked great as left tackle.
Yeah. I just didn't know they were just going to only play him at left tackle.
He was a great left tackle. I want to say though, I did notice that Lamar Jackson on the game-winning drive, what should have been the game-winning drive, he looked good up until that play right before the Likely play. Right before the Likely play, Zay Flowers wide open back in the end zone, he just throws it behind him. And
you know who would have made that throw? DJU would have hit Zay Flowers in the chest.
Now that throw, I would have hit Zay Flowers on the chest. And I think now, obviously, you're running away from Chris Jones, who honestly would have had 6 sacks if it was anyone that wasn't Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Because God damn it, Chris Jones looked really good last night. Shout out to the Cowboy and Poke, Justice Hill, for the amazing blocking effort on that last play.
Oh, dude! I mean, he
was lost, but God damn it, he was trying, and he
did enough. He did enough. He did enough.
And that to me, that was probably the most impressive thing I saw that entire game. That's some agent. Please clip this and send this if I ever get cut or anything. Just show teams. Just look at that effort.
Just show teams how much effort I fought off Chris Jones by myself.
He got thrown aside, and he just gets right back in there. Yeah. I mean, he gets thrown aside, he gets right back in there.
And that's why I like the Ravens. I still think that this is probably a rematch of what we're probably going to see. I'm kind of with you on the Texans thing, but I think that that's the type of player and the type of effort that kind of makes those differences when it matters most. And that way, there's a prime example.
And I obviously we still have. I mean, there's a game coming on later. We get to see Packers and Eagles. I don't know if that's started yet, but it has to.
Yes, it's first quarter is almost halfway done. 3-0, Green Bay.
So obviously we haven't had a ton of NFL games starting this season yet. Lamar Jackson looks to be once again the best player in the NFL. I don't know if you disagree with that. It's definitely too early to make that call.
I mean, right now he does. From what
we've seen last year, from what we saw last year with his MVP season, moving into this year, playing against the best team in the league.
Yep. I mean, and
he looked really fucking good.
And last year it was like, oh, he bulked up, like he's going to be a problem, and we realized he just didn't look as quick. Now that he's lost that weight, he looks a lot quicker. But again, I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's like, is it healthy for him to be fluctuating here and doing different things? But I think it kind of shows that he's just meant to be slender. I mean, he's not going to be someone that you're like, I really want linebackers really pounded on this dude all game long. Like you can't have it. You can't have him get hit because he's probably going to get hurt. And I think he's doing a better job of protecting himself as well. And I think that was a big criticism last year in that championship game, was that he had chances to be a little bit more aggressive and take some more hits and decided to be a little bit more conservative. And I think that kind of played into Kansas City's hands there in that game last year. But I think that, you know, the way he played last night, and granted, most of those were on scrambles where the offensive line is getting absolutely decimated by what you said again, is Chris Jones and the rest of that defensive line that just, you know, they're going to be a force, man. Like they're the best team in the league for a reason, and it's not because they only have an offense.
Yeah, their defensive line is up there with the best in the league. They're obviously up there with the Browns, with the Cowboys in terms of having one of the elite defensive lines, on top of the fact that they have Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce, I'm not as impressed with anymore. Obviously, he's aging a little bit, and he's obviously on the sunset of his career. Going to go out probably with another Super Bowl, if I had to guess, and then call it quits. But that doesn't matter because Patrick Mahomes still has like 8 years left on his 10-year deal. And he has Xavier Worthy now, who is going to be a chief for, if they're smart, a chief for a long time. Rashee Rice looks to be like a promising piece. Not to mention the fact that they have Hollywood, who's a little bit older now, but still is going to be able to provide a lot of offense for the Chiefs, especially in those first couple of years. Juju Smith-Schuster has another veteran presence in that wide receiver room. Pacheco looks good. God, I hate the way he runs. It's so funny, but I mean, he can get the yards, and that's all that matters. He's obviously still a reception threat too. The Chiefs are looking like they're never left. I mean, like they have 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. They're looking like it's going to be another Patriots situation, where it's just the Chiefs coming out of the AFC every year.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's get into it. Let's start with the AFC East. Who you got coming out of the AFC East? For me, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna say it. It's the Jets, baby. Jets, Jets. I think they come out the number 1 spot. I think Buffalo right behind them, followed by Miami and New England.
I like the pick. I'm going to disagree with the order. I also think the Jets are going to win the AFC East this season. I think Aaron Rodgers is still an elite quarterback. I think people are kind of underrating him for a lot of the outs off the field stuff, which obviously is, I think he is batshit crazy.
Yeah, but that's okay.
That doesn't matter because that motherfucker could sling the damn ball, and that's all that really matters. They have a ton of weapons. Obviously,
it's like Kyrie being a flat earther. It's like no one really cares if he can ball.
Do you see his layup package? Why do I care? I think this team is solid on both offense and defense. But in terms of the rest of the AFC East, I actually have the Dolphins finishing second this year. I think Tua's going to have a little bit of a breakup year, or a breakout year, and I think that Tyreek Hill is probably. This is probably what I think is going to be the last season of Tyreek Hill being Tyreek Hill. And I think we're going to see close to a 2,000-yard season out of him. Not to mention the fact that Jalen Waddle's still there. Remember, this team scored 70 last year. I don't remember who it was against, but they won 70-0. Yeah, like this is a team that, or 70-20. This is a team that's like serious. Their offense is so good. I still have questions about their defense, but I think that Mike McDaniel is the right guy for this team. I think that Tua is the right guy for this team, as long as he can stay healthy, as long as he can stay protected, and as long as they can maintain some sort of a run game. I think that they will be dangerous. I think Buffalo is right there, though. I mean, if you put me on the spot right now, I'm probably saying there are 3 teams in the playoffs out of the AFC East, which can happen. So I think this is one of the stronger divisions for the AFC. But yeah, obviously Patriots are shit.
Yep.
They're rebuilding. Obviously, Jared Mayo's first year here. We'll see what happens there. I'm not confident in anything. I think they already announced Stidham will be starting week 1.
No, Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, Brissett. My bad. So I'd get all those backups for Tom Brady confused. But yeah, Brissett starting week 1. I don't know what's going on with Drake May. You feel like he would be a week 1 starter with that high of a draft pick. Guess not. Maybe he's a little banged up. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm a little concerned about New England coming into this season. What's to love?
Yeah,
Ramondre Stevenson.
That's about it. Yeah, that's AFC East. We're kind of in agreement on that. AFC North, Bengals, Browns, Steelers, Ravens. I have the Ravens coming out of the AFC North, followed by Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh at the bottom. I think that's probably the most likely order.
I don't necessarily disagree with it. I could see Cleveland and Cincinnati flipping there. Cleveland obviously has an extremely talented team. It's really a question of what Deshaun Watson can do. Obviously, I don't want Deshaun Watson to do well. I'm still amazed that he's in the league.
I mean, 5-1 as a starter last year before he got hurt. So I mean, you gotta, he's
obviously a good quarterback. I don't think he should be in the league, but in terms of where he's at as a quarterback, he's probably still a top 10 quarterback when he's healthy. And maybe even top 5. I mean, before all that shit came out, he was definitely like 3 or 4 in the league in terms of quarterback play. He led that Houston team to a AFC Championship
and led the league in passing. Yep.
Led the league in passing. He was an MVP candidate. He can still do that. The question is, how much has this off the field stuff really affected him? Important note, I believe Deshaun Watson's dad died today. Saw that on the news. So I don't know what we're going to see on Sunday in terms of Deshaun Watson. We might see a Jameis Winston week 1 start, which hell yeah. I hope that happens, but I don't know how much this is going to affect Deshaun Watson. It's eat some dubs. No, but they play the Cowboys, so hope not. But
yeah.
But I think Deshaun Watson is probably going to have a good season. I don't know if this, obviously the off the field stuff was one thing, with his dad. I don't know if it was confirmed, but I saw it all over Twitter. I think his dad died today. We'll see what happens in terms of how that affects his season. It can either be really good or really bad in terms of his play, and that's really the only way to put it. He's either gonna fall flat on his face with all the pressure off the field and all the other stuff going on, or he's just gonna put that shit on his shoulder.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll see.
I agree with that. AFC South, you got Titans, Colts, Jags, Texans. I think Houston and Indianapolis will be fighting for that top spot, followed by Tennessee and Jacksonville. I like Anthony Richardson a lot. I think him and Jonathan Taylor complemented each other very well before he got hurt. I think that it was something that looked like it was working very well. But I really like Houston, and I think they've got what it takes to win that.
Harsh disagreement here in terms of the AFC South. Obviously I have the Texans. We talked about that earlier. I think the Texans are going to win this division. They're obviously the best team in the division by far. One of the top 3 teams in the AFC, I think, for sure. But in terms of after that, I am not high on the Colts this season. They look terrible in terms of everything except Anthony Richardson. They obviously still have a decent line on both sides of the ball, but they don't have anyone that's really going to be catching the ball for them this year. Michael Pittman is still decent, but god damn, if that's your wide receiver 1, you're not going to have a good year. Anthony Richardson could be their savior. I guess him being mobile helps with that a lot. I think that they're going to be great.
I'm high on Adonai Mitchell. I think out of Texas is going to help out a ton for their offense.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that happening as well. He's obviously a very talented receiver. But in terms of the rest of the AFC South, I have it going Houston number 1. This is where you're gonna not like it. I have Jacksonville number 2. I think this team is good. I don't know why everyone's so down on Jacksonville. They have consistently been a playoff or near playoff team with Trevor Lawrence. They have gotten playoff wins with Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne's set to have another breakout season, I believe. Defense questionable. Receiver room still a little bit questionable. I think they're talented enough that they should be fine, especially with the quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, who I still think is a top 10 quarterback in the league. Jacksonville, I think, is probably finishing number 2 here, followed by Indianapolis, then Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to be shit.
Yeah, Tennessee is going to be a mess probably. I think the only thing that matters about the AFC South is the Texans. I think the last 3 teams in that division are just going to be kind of duking it out. I think Tennessee is definitely firmly at the bottom, but I think it's going to be a closer race between Jacksonville and Indianapolis for that second spot. I think it's going to come down to the last couple weeks about who's going to take that second spot, possibly in the card. But we'll see how that goes. AFC West, I think we've all got Kansas City just rolling away with that. I've got Denver as the number 2 team in the AFC West. I like Bo Nix. I like what he brings to the table. I think Marvin Mims and him are going to connect quite a bit. Cortland Sutton's still out there offensively. The big question mark for me is the defense. I think people are thinking Bo Nix is not going to pan out, but I've got him possibly winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he could definitely lead this Denver Broncos team to a playoff appearance. They're not going to win, but I think he could definitely get them there. They could definitely be a wild card team as well. But I think Kansas City, bar none, is the best team in the AFC West. I mean, you could give me the Chargers as the second team. I just don't believe in Justin Herbert anymore. I don't believe in him anymore. And, Minshew Magic doesn't do much for me. I think he's going to have really good stats, but I don't think Vegas is going to win a lot of games. And I think that's just because they just don't have the guys right now.
Yeah, we're in perfect agreement actually. I have the exact same order you do: Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders. I think
Raiders.
that the Raiders. I think that but the interesting thing here for me is obviously that second, third spot between Broncos and the Chargers. I think with the Chargers, you have new coaching coming in with Jim Harbaugh. You have Justin Herbert. I want to see what he can do with him. However, it seems like they're just going to be running the ball every fucking play. And I don't think that's going to work against teams like Kansas City that you got to play twice a year, who are known to be able to stop the run. Um, in terms of the Broncos, I'm with you. I think Bo Nix could easily win this Offensive Rookie of the Year, but I think it's probably going to go to Xavier Worthy at the end of the season, just based off already. He's got so much hype. Obviously, Caleb Williams is in there. Jane Daniels is in there. All these guys are still there. We haven't seen them play, so it's too early to make that call. But I do think that Xavier Worthy is going to be in that conversation. And I think Bo Nix is going to be in that conversation because I think that this Sean Payton-led team could be dangerous. They're going to play a lot of running backs. And like you said, I think Marvin Mims is going to have his season now. I think it's kind of his season to kind of take the reins in terms of the wide receiver room because I think he's their wide receiver one.
Portland Sutton's probably one.
Is it still Cortland Sutton?
Yeah, it's probably. I think Mims is a strong two, though. That's a really strong two.
Mims is definitely a strong two, and it looked like last season he was ready to take over that number one spot. But I think you're right. Cortland Sutton probably still number one there on that roster. But like you said, I think they have the weapons. They obviously have the defense. Their defense has never been a problem. They have, I still think, the best secondary in the league. Pat Surtain is monster. He's good. PS2 is just a monster. We'll see what happens. I hope that the defense doesn't have to save Bo Nix. I do think Bo Nix is a talented quarterback, and I think despite the fact that he's 24, who cares? Joe Burrow came into the league at 24, 25. I think this guy can really, really do some damage early on, just for the fact that he's already played so many of the guys that he's going to be playing against. He's already played against half of them. I don't know. He played at Auburn against PS2, I think. This is... he knows these guys. He knows obviously they're not NFL players when he played them, but he's been around. They know him.
It's not a stranger walking into that.
He's not the same. He's not the same level of rookie as Jane Daniels is.
And I think
he's not the same level as rookie as Xavier Worthy. He's obviously more mature. He's got a better arm. He's got better reads of defenses. He knows what he's doing.
That's what it is. I think it's the reading the defense that's going to separate him from the really young guys that are still really. I think the young guys are more talented than him, but I think this year what's going to separate him is going to be able to read and just all that film study and all that change that he's had from going to Auburn to Oregon to now this. I mean, a lot of turnover can really shape a guy into being versatile mentally, and I think that's kind of where his strength is and where his advantage is, if you want to call it that. He could possibly see himself hoisting that award at the end of the season. But a lot to be said there. But I think that he definitely has the potential, and the Denver Broncos should not be slept on this season unless something terrible happens. But yeah, so that kind of wraps up kind of who we think is going to win the AFC divisionals. Who do you have as your matchup for the AFC Championship game?
I think we're probably in agreement here. I'm going to go Chiefs-Texans. The Ravens looked good enough last night that I almost want to put them in instead of the Texans, just because of how good Lamar Jackson is and how good, most of that offense is. Rashad Bateman is tricking us all, by the way. But I think Houston just has so much talent. With Diggs coming in this offseason, you have a wide receiver one of probably Nico Collins, actually a wide receiver two of Stephon Diggs, and then Tank Dell in your slot at that wide receiver three position. Not to mention the fact that you now have Joe Mixon in your backfield. You also have CJ Stroud up there. Not to mention that your defense with Will Anderson there. I mean, that line is so good. This team is talented as shit. Not to mention Larry Tunsil there. This on the offense, these lines are good. These skill positions are good. The coaching is good. I don't have any reason not to have this team in the AFC Championship, especially after what they did last season.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you as far as what they've got tool wise. I mean, I really thought last night was kind of a preview of what we're gonna see championship game wise, but here's where I start to lean here. I'm kind of getting the feeling that injuries might derail the Ravens. I think
they're an injury prone team.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been their thing, and I think that could once again kind of rear its ugly head. And, I don't think Derrick Henry being an addition to this team impressed me like it should. But again, you're going against one of the best defensive lines in the league, so that probably isn't going to stay that way. But at least last night, he didn't look like, oh, this is a game changer for them. But when they play other teams, it's going to be. I just think it's the Chiefs. So, I mean, like you said, you're going against the best. You're going against a team that everyone's now looking at as, well, we thought this was going to be a good team. They're still a good team. They're still the favorite, and I don't blame anybody for calling them the favorite. So I think it's Chiefs. I want it to be the Texans. My dream matchup is Jets-Broncos, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that would be once in a blue moon, but I think that this is definitely Chiefs and Texans. I think the Texans are going to have a really special season, and if they don't have anything, emergency happen to them, I think they're deep at wide receiver. I think having Mixon as a running back gives you a little bit more depth as well. And I think the defense is like you said, that they had one of the best drafts ever, and they're building on that, and I think that you're seeing something really special happen down there.
Yeah, trading up to get Will Anderson was just such a genius move. This team got its shit together. Obviously the Deshaun Watson shit really derailed Houston for a minute. They kind of just went downhill from there. But they're back, and they're the best team in Texas, that's for sure.
Yeah, it didn't take them that long to get back either, which is very impressive. So kudos to them.
And D'Amico Ryan is just...
Yeah, he's good.
He's good.
And
CJ Stroud, he looks like a 6-year, 7th-year quarterback. I mean,
yeah, he does, and let's see if that continues. I think, again, this is one of those things where that second year, it's always a bit tougher on these guys because now they've got film on them and they can kind of exploit some of those things that gave them problems last year and see if they've improved on them or have had talks with coaches on how to possibly fix some of those scenarios. But yeah, I think if it continues and he is as good as advertised and continues on that trajectory, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be there playing against Patrick Mahomes. And I think giving him quite the game. I remember when they gave him a game a couple years ago and then blew that shit. But hey, it happens. They didn't have Stroud at the time, and it shows.
Quick little update from Brazil.
Update from Brazil.
We just had the first tush push of the season, I believe, on 3rd and 1. It actually did not convert. It is now 4th and inches. So we're looking at another one here. But I'm hearing commentary. I'm hearing rumors that this is now being called the Brazilian butt lift as it's being played. We have a penalty on the defense, and that is a first down. All right, back to business.
Yeah, well, there you go. 6-0 Green Bay right now. So 2 field goals to start. Green Bay looking like they're okay. They're moving the ball all right against that defense for Philadelphia, and we'll see if the offense wakes up for either team anytime soon. To the NFC, folks. We're gonna start with NFC East because that's the most intriguing NFC division, I believe. I think that I'm going with the Cowboys coming out of the NFC East. I think Washington is right behind them, followed by Philadelphia and New York. I think a lot of people will have a problem with me putting Washington ahead of Philadelphia, but if this game continues to go the way it is against Green Bay, I think I have a really good reason to think.
I think you're right on target, and let me tell you why. One, Saquon just let off for a nice run, which is intriguing, but I think you're correct, and I think that when you look at the Eagles from last season to this season, obviously the Eagles start like 10-1, right? And then boom, 1-5 after that. They went on a huge losing streak, not a losing streak, but they lost 5 out of the last 6 games. They come into this season not looking great already. I have no reason to believe that this team is the same Philly team we saw even last year or the year before that. This is just not the same team. I'm not as impressed with Jalen Hurts as I used to be. I do think that they made some really good acquisitions in the offseason going and getting Saquon from New York. But yeah, I'm not impressed with this Philadelphia team whatsoever. But I agree with you. I think Cowboys come out of it. I still think the Cowboys are the best regular season team probably in the league. They're good at winning in the regular season, and that's not going to stop, I don't think, anytime soon. Obviously, the run game's a question. We have Rico Dowdle starting at running back 1, and then we have Dalvin Cook and Zeke sharing carries at running back 2, I guess. I don't know what the fuck we're doing there, but whatever. Fuck it, I guess. We finally paid CD. That's playing. I mean, he's on his final year. He wants an extension. He's not going to get one this season, but that's fine. He'll get one next season. This team is still the most talented defensively as well. Obviously, Micah Parsons there is just a dog, and we still have a great defensive line all
Ron
around. We
Bland,
still have
baby. It's Bland time.
Deron
Let's
Bland.
go, baby.
Deron Bland is actually out for a couple of weeks.
Oh, well,
He
that's
got
all right.
hurt.
He's still going to have a good
But
year.
it's okay because Trevon Diggs is now back and healthy, which is good enough for me.
Okay.
Once they're both back and healthy, obviously the secondary is extremely scary on terms of interceptions. Now, in terms of coverage, not scary at all. No. We're going to allow a lot of yards, but that's okay because we're going to get 3 turnovers off picks a game, and that's good enough for me. Not to mention the fact that Mike is going to get tons of sacks. Baby. Not to mention that we have Lawrence over there. We have DeMarcus Lawrence on the other side. It's going to be just fine. I have no issues at all with Dallas, except for the fact that Jerry Jones is still alive.
Yeah, there you go.
But then I have, like you said, I have Washington. I need Jane Daniels to have a big year for my fantasy team. I did pick him as my starting quarterback. I got Geno as the backup in case anyone cared. But I need Jane Daniels to do well, and I believe that he will do well. And I think this team is talented, obviously still on both sides of the ball. Losing Chase Young hurts from last year, obviously, in terms of the defensive side of things, but I think that they still are a talented team. I have no problem with putting them at number 2. Philly, like we already talked about, I have them at number 3 just for the lack of improvement that we've seen since they were a top 2 team in the league. And then, like you said, Giants, they're the Giants. They're terrible. I need Malik Neighbors to do well. That's really all that matters to me. As long as Neighbors does well, I'm okay with that. Daniel Jones, not the guy. They're looking to tank.
It's DeVito time, baby. It's DeVito time. Yeah, I mean, it's
he's in New York.
He's gonna start for like 7 weeks. I guarantee you that they're not gonna ride Daniel Jones
they're gonna
the whole
fake
season.
They're gonna fake a Daniel Jones injury, tank the season, and then they're gonna go and draft probably like
DJ
Quinn. They're probably gonna draft Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, probably.
Or Shadur Sanders.
Yeah, I think. See. I'm sure that Dion would be happy with him in New York. That's the perfect market for him. But yeah, so that's the NFC East. NFC North, a little bit tighter of a race maybe. I've got the Lions coming out of the NFC North. I really like the Lions this year. A lot of people like them for a Super Bowl pick. A lot of people have them winning their Super Bowl this year. I think that's a little nutty, but I think that they have a really good team. I think the second team in that conference is the Green Bay Packers, followed by the Chicago Bears, and the basement dwellers will be the Vikings. I don't know if you have anything different with that. I think that's kind of pretty much it for the NFC North.
Yeah, and I have the Lions not winning the Super Bowl. I have the Lions playing in the Super Bowl this season. So I agree with you there. Lions number 1 by far. Packers are a great team, and I think Packers are probably going to win at least 10 games this regular season. So I also don't have a problem if people want to put them number 1 because I think that they're still a really talented team. They're probably going to drop both their games to Detroit, and that's fine. Detroit's a very talented team. Goff obviously is going to go crazy. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is about to go crazy. This team beat the Chiefs in Week 1 last season. Obviously, they lose in the NFC Championship to the 49ers. Tough loss. Would have liked to see them in the Super Bowl. I think they have a better chance of beating the Chiefs than the 49ers did. I have them going to the Super Bowl this season. I don't have them winning it, but I'm very, very high on Detroit this season. And then, like you said, I don't think there's much to say about the rest of the NFC North. Packers are obviously the second best team in this conference, followed by Caleb Williams with not conference division, followed by Caleb Williams with the Bears. That's kind of an iffy one because you just don't know yet. So many new things going on in Chicago. You got, obviously you got Caleb Williams there, and you got to see what he can do with, some of his new weapons. He's got Keenan Allen now, DJ Moore over there, and then, obviously Rome Odunze, and I think that's going to be an interesting matchup because it seems like him and Caleb Williams have a strong connection. So we'll see what happens there. I have him on my bench in my fantasy lineup just in case. Like you said, Vikings. If your quarterback is Sam Darnold, I don't really know what you're expecting to happen. Please free Justin Jefferson. Get him on a winning team. Damn it. Seriously, even put Justin Jefferson in Denver.
I'd like to see them tank and pick up Shadur. I think that'd be fun to have him and Jet on the same team. I think it's crazy. because I think they'll be in the running because that's how bad they're going to be.
Yeah,
but,
they're going to be bad.
yeah,
they're going to be a top 3 pick.
Yeah,
I think you're probably looking at, competition, a tank race between the Vikings, Giants, and shit. The Raiders.
Yeah,
probably the
I think
Raiders.
those are. I think those are the 3 that you probably look at the most that are trying to find something at the quarterback position. Yeah, but that's pretty much the NFC North. NFC South is kind of interesting. But I think this is another 2-team divisional race. I think this is the Buccaneers to win. I think Baker again is going to lead this team to a divisional win, followed by the Falcons, followed by the Saints, and the basement dwellers will once again be the Panthers. But I just don't think there's any surprises here. I think you're looking at that just kind of playing out. People could probably convince me that Kirk Cousins could have a good year and that team could be good and dethrone Baker and win that division. But I'm going to have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Baker, I think, is going to win a playoff game this year again. I have the Buccaneers getting at least to the divisional. They're going to win their division, I think, like you said, followed. I'm kind of tossed between the Falcons and the Saints. I still think the Saints have a lot of talent. I think Alvin Kamara's, while it will be his last good year, is going to have a good year. And I think Chris Olave is still a really talented receiver. I'm not sold on the rest of the team is the problem with the Saints. While I am sold on the rest of the team for the Falcons, I think that Kirk Cousins is talented enough that he can, help a lot of these guys shine, like Bijan Robinson. We might finally get a Kyle Pitts here.
Yeah.
That would help my dad, who's drafted Kyle Pitts like 5 years in a row now. But I'm a little tossed there. But like you said, Panthers, basement dwellers, I have no reason to believe they're going to be any good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much NFC South. And finally, the NFC West, where again, I don't even know if this is even a 2-team race. I just think the 49ers are such head and shoulders above the Rams, Cardinals, and Seahawks. I don't really know if there's even really a contest between them and anybody else in their division. You could sell me on the Rams having a decent season. You could sell me on even the Seahawks having a good season. I think those are the 2 teams that I would look at to have a good season. I don't believe in the Cardinals that much. I think they're good. I think that Kyler Murray is still good. I think that James Conner is really good. It's just whether they can finish games. They're going to put up points. It's the defense that worries me about the Cardinals. It's not the offense. And I think that's kind of a surprise because the last 2 seasons it's kind of been the abysmal red zone offense of the Cardinals was really the detriment to that team last year. If they can improve on that, I think they're going to be better, and they could possibly get that number 2 spot. But it's going to be a slugfest between the bottom 3 teams of this division and just who can even stay relatively close to the 49ers, who are just going to run away with it.
Listen, I obviously agree with the 49ers pick. I do have the Cardinals finishing second in this division. I think that they're going to fix their red zone offense 100% with the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't see how you don't fix that, not to mention the fact that Trey McBride's going to have a breakout season, along with Kyler Murray being healthy. Kyler loves throwing to his tight ends. We all know that. I have this team being decent. I mean, I'm looking at like a 9-10 win team here, honestly. I think that they could have a really good season. Like you said, the question is the defense. Last couple of seasons, they've been okay on the defensive front. Their linebackers are okay. I think they have Isaiah Simmons over there now. This team is good to me. I mean, I don't have any problems with it, but I'm looking at the Seahawks. I think that they could be a talented team as well. I think I actually have the Rams finishing the bottom of this division. I don't see anything promising from Matt Stafford anymore that leads me to believe that they could do anything significant. I don't see anything coming from Cooper Kupp this season or from Puka Nacua that's going to make me kind of just think that anything's special is going to happen. Obviously, Aaron Donald's not there anymore. You don't really know what you're going to get out of the defense anymore. I think this team you're looking at like a 4-3-4-1 team over here for the Rams. Meanwhile, I do think that the Seahawks, they have DK Metcalf. He's going to probably have a better season this year, I'm hoping. And then Geno had a decent season last year and probably can build on that and continue to improve. Jackson Smith and Jigba's still there. You got Walker in the backfield. Charbonnet is still a good second option. I need him to get a couple carries for my fantasy team too. So I pretty much agree with your order. We disagree a little bit on the Cardinals, I think, in terms of
the thing is you could convince me. I'm just saying that between those 3 teams, or at least between the Cardinals and Seahawks, it's going to be a slugfest. I think that
Yeah,
second spot is going to be very much a toss up for at least half, if not more than half of this. I think we'll know by then.
yeah.
But who do you have in your NFC title game? Who have you got as the matchup to possibly go to the Super Bowl?
For the NFC this year, it's so tough for me. But I'm gonna make the homer pick. I'm gonna say that the Cowboys make it to the NFC Championship game this year, but I think they lose to the Lions in the NFC Championship. I'm thinking the only reason I think that is because I still think that this Cowboys team is the most talented in the NFC. I think the lack of a run game deep in the season, especially against a team like Detroit, means that we're not going to have more than we're not going to get to 100 rush yards total in that game. Maybe not even 75. Like that's the kind of, you're going to have to throw 400 yards against the Lions to beat them, and I don't know if that's going to happen. Um, if the Cowboys are healthy defensively, I could see us being able to beat the Lions that way. I don't think that's going to be the case. I just don't see us not having. I just don't see us being at full strength at the end of this season. In terms of the Lions, I think that they're extremely talented. Amon-Ra St. Brown, not to mention Jared Goff, kind of making that comeback from that 2018 season where he led them to that Super Bowl. He was an MVP candidate. I think Jared Goff is back, and he's really, really good. He was really, really good last season. I feel like he didn't get enough recognition. I feel like people are kind of dissing him just for the fact that he doesn't run as much as a lot of other quarterbacks. That dude can sling it, and he is accurate, and he reads the defense very well. I'm a big fan of Jared Goff. I'd rather have him than Dak on the Cowboys right now, if I'm being honest. And I think that he's going to lead that team to the Super Bowl, and I don't think they're going to win it. But I very much think that the defense with Aiden Hutchinson, that this team is good. This team is good. We saw it last season. The improvement from 2 seasons to last season just proves how good Dan Campbell is as a coach. And I think that as long as they don't regress, I see no reason why they won't be in the Super Bowl.
All right, so you've got Lions Chiefs in the Super Bowl, with the Chiefs probably winning, is what you're saying. That's kind of your final thought there.
Yeah. And I'd like to mention that the only way that this Cowboys-Lions matchup happens is if the 49ers meet the Lions on the way to that. Because I don't think the Cowboys can beat the 49ers. I think the Lions can. So I'd like to point out that if it does end up being 49ers versus Cowboys at any point before the NFC Championship, I would take the Niners over them. So I have no problems with the Niners and the Lions being anyone else's NFC pick, because I think that's a very likely scenario.
All right. Well, I'll give you mine. So I have the 49ers coming out of NFC. I think they're going to do it this time and not win the Super Bowl, but I think they're going to once again be NFC conference champions. And I think they go against a really vaunted I think it's the Cowboys. I think it's Cowboys 49ers. I think you have a little bit of a throwback action. I just think the 49ers probably get it done. I like the Cowboys to actually win a couple playoff games this year and kind of get a little bit of that monkey off their back that's kind of been hanging on there. But we'll see who they get in the first round. I think that'll matter. If they get Baker in the first round, that could be trouble. If they get the Lions on the way there at all, they're screwed. I think. It just depends on how their path ends up looking, but I think that it's definitely going to be the 49ers coming out of here and having another shot at it, and I think that they're not going to get it done because my Super Bowl champions and this is just you're not going to like this. I like the Texans. I think it's it. I think we're ready. I think your Texans 49ers Super Bowl. I think Houston gets it done, and I think we're looking at a shocking victory of C.J. Stroud over Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think it'll be because Kansas City is all the way healthy. I think this is kind of one of those things where you start off really strong, you get through most of the season, but you lose something along the way, and I think the team that benefits from that is the Texans. So I've got the Texans as my Super Bowl pick. I've got them beating the 49ers. Just because I believe that their offense is just so OP, and if they can stay healthy, I think this is one of the most dangerous teams in the league, bar none.
I really don't hate that pick at all. I mean, I'm that close. I'm right there with you. Like, I'm that
It,
close to making the same prediction. We both said, I just told you, I think the 49ers could easily be in that NFC Championship game, and they could obviously easily beat the Cowboys if that ends up being their matchup, right? Um, Same with the Texans. I think they could beat the Chiefs, and I have them in that AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. We both
yeah,
are pretty
yeah,
much in agreement with who we think the top 5 teams
yeah.
in the league are and
Uh-huh.
who those
100%.
contenders are. And I think I think the big question is just what the path looks like
Yes.
for a lot of these teams. Like if the Texans meet the Chiefs early in the playoffs, that's going to be a problem.
Even if they if the Texans play the Jets early, that could be a problem. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I mean, Aaron Rodgers could easily lead the Jets to the AFC title game, but they would get cooked by Patrick Mahomes. Like I don't doubt that Patrick Mahomes comes out on top against Aaron Rodgers. I really don't. I just think that, like you said, Kansas City's just too stacked on both sides of the ball for really anything to really culminate there. But I think that if, like you said, if these paths collide and you have the Texans, because if the Texans if they have the Ravens in their path, I think that the Texans win. I think the Ravens, like I said after last night, they look really good. That there's nothing to be ashamed of the result of last night. It doesn't dictate the way your season's going to go. We saw the Lions beat Kansas City last year to open the season, and that ended up launching the Lions into this trajectory of having this confidence that now people are like, hey, this could be a Super Bowl appearance team, and I don't doubt that could be a thing. But like you said, we got the top 5 teams here that we're in agreement with it. I think that it's going to come down to one of those hoisting the Lombardi at the end of the year. And I just can't wait to see how this season unfolds. And I can't wait to just load up Red Zone on Sunday and just get belligerently inebriated.
Exactly. And listen, everybody, we're moving to meth streams this season. Stream East just it got shut down. It got pinned, but it's okay. The legacy will live on.
I mean, they're back up already. I mean, they're already back up.
Let me just tell you, the mess streams, I've had no issues.
No, me neither. Last year that was my go-to, and I haven't left since. And I think it's just because I think there are not a lot of people on that server, and compared to
don't go to it.
Yeah, don't go to it. Leave it alone.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
actually.
It's terrible.
It
buffers constantly, adds relentlessly. I lose
God.
connection to the source. I mean, but no, I think that I'm just ready for the season to get going and to get this thing off the ground. Hey, it's almost that time. Let's go to the sports book, baby. Look, we 4-2 for Zach over the weekend, 3-3 for me, 2-0 on my locks, 1-1 for Zach and his locks. But the thing is, we've gotten to that point where Zach's got $76 to play with. He's gonna tell you how we're divvying them up here. Give me your 6 games for this weekend. I'm gonna start us off here. Texas, Michigan. Texas a 7-point favorite. Who you got, and how much do you want to put out of your 76 on your confidence scale meter, sir?
Let's go ahead and throw. Let's see, $76, 6 picks. Let's make this a lock.
Okay.
I'm gonna make this one a lock. I'm gonna go ahead and take. What's the spread? One more time.
7. Texas -7.
Give me Texas. Taking a lock. I don't think Michigan covers this one. I think Texas wins by at least 10. That's a tough one to pick, and I want to make it my lock just because I'm that unimpressed with Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
If you had asked me 1 week ago today,
yeah, you would have said Michigan.
I would have said Michigan. But I was so unimpressed with Michigan that I have to go with Texas. I think that, I mean, Texas beat the shit out of Colorado State, a team that gave actual Colorado fits last season. I have to go Texas here.
How much are we putting on Texas? You can average about $12 a pick if you want to go that route. But
it's a lot. Let me just throw a 20 on it.
Okay, throwing 20 on that leaves you with 56 on that. So 20 on that. Second game of the day. Let's do mine first. I'm gonna go with Texas. I'm gonna go with Texas money line. Texas money line. I do not have that much money to play with. I got $60 to play with, boys. We went out and lost 3 games, so you know, we don't get treats. At least I think that's what I've got. See here. I've got $52 to play with. So I got 52 to play with here. I'm gonna go ahead and put 20 on this as well. So 20 on Texas money line. I think it could be a little bit. It shouldn't be close. I think Zach's on the right track here, but I'm gonna play it a little bit more conservative to the chest. Try to keep a little bit more of my money just in case. And I'm gonna go 20 on Texas money line. Second game on the list here. What would you like it to be, sir?
I would like to look at Arkansas and Oklahoma State.
All right, -10 for the Oklahoma State Cowboys against the Razorbacks. The over-under here is 61.5 points. Who you got here? And like I said, you got $56 to play with. Go ahead.
Let me throw a tenner on this one. And that's because I got Arkansas to cover that 10-point spread.
Arkansas plus the 10 on that. And just letting you know, I am absolutely abysmal at math. So technically, I have $68 to play with. So now you've got $38 to play with. So that's my fault. I was $2 off. Or like
that's fine.
So just letting you know that. So $38 to play with for him. I've got less than that. So that's fun. I'm gonna also go with Arkansas, but I'm just gonna go with the money line. I think Arkansas just wins this one straight up. I think this is a trap game for Oklahoma State. They didn't super impress me in person when I watched them play South Dakota State. I wasn't too impressed. I think Ollie barely getting over 100 yards is kind of embarrassing considering I know that South Dakota State is one of the best teams in the FCS, top, defending national champions. I get it. But I think Arkansas's defensive line probably a little bit better. I think their front seven's a little bit better than South Dakota State talent-wise, and I think that everybody's stacking the box against this team and forcing Alan Bowman to throw it. If his receivers can't get open, it'll be a problem. But again, you're talking about an Arkansas team that beat Arkansas Pine Bluff by like 1,000 points. So, I mean, I don't really know how good Arkansas is. I don't really learn anything from that game. But I like to pick Arkansas to win straight up money line. So back-to-back money line picks for me. Give me a tenner on that as well. And I've got 26 to play with. You got 38 to play with. Third game of the day. I'll go ahead and pick this one. I'm going to go with third game of the day being, go ahead and just do, let's do Kansas, Illinois. As my third game. Kansas is only a 4.5-point favorite against the Illini. Of course, this game being on the road as they hosted last year, so this one is up in Champaign. Go ahead and give me your pick. The over-under here, 57.5.
I'm gonna switch it up here. I'm just gonna take the under, and I'm gonna take the under 57.5. I'm gonna throw $8 on that.
Okay, $8 on that. So leaves you with what, 30 left?
Yeah.
Okay, so that leaves you with 30 left. $8 on the under. I'm actually going to go opposite here. I'm going to bet the over here. I'm going to go over 57.5. And I have I really am bad at this. I'll get better. I promise, folks. Promise.
I got the calculator up.
All right. So 52 minus 30. So I got 32 left. Let's go ahead and throw 2 on there. I'll throw $2 on the over. And so that'll leave both of us with 30 left here for the last 3 games. So I'm going to just split mine up in 10 all the way down the board here. What do you want our fourth game to be here to close it out here?
Is this to close? I thought we were doing 6 games.
I know, but I'm just saying it's your turn to pick. Your turn to pick the fourth game.
I want to look at App State and Clemson.
All right, App State and Clemson. A classic for sure. We're bound to have one of those. At what kickoff there? Is that another kickoff?
What? 7 p.m. kickoff.
7 p.m. kickoff. That one. And this moment down here, I bet
it will be occurring.
A 16.5 point favorite is Clemson. Over under 52.5 here. What are you thinking here?
I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna be real bold. No, I'm not. I'm gonna be conservative. I'm just gonna take App State to cover. I was gonna take the money line. I'm gonna take App State to cover. No, fuck it. Give me the money line. Give me App State money line. And you know what? I want to throw. I'm gonna fuck it. That's the 4th pick.
Yeah, $30 left.
I'm gonna throw a 5 on that.
All right, five are on that one.
That's good. That's good odds.
That's
good odds for a 5.
I'll tell you, hey, 5 to win 35. I'll take that. At plus 600. So good pick there. I'm gonna go the route you were gonna go. I'm gonna go Appalachian State to cover. I'm gonna throw a tenner on that, and that'll leave me with 20 left. So 16.5 plus 16.5 Appalachian State on the road against the Clemson Tigers. 5th game, I couldn't stay away from this. Colorado and Nebraska is going to be the 5th game on my list. Nebraska, a 6.5 point favorite at home. I'm going to go ahead and pick Colorado money line here at plus 190. Give me $10 on the Buffaloes and to just crumble any confidence that Nebraska has in having a fantastic season. They will still have a good season, but it will not be a playoff season that people might think if they get off to this 2-0 start.
All right, I'm going to throw conservative here. I do think Nebraska is going to win this game, but I'm going to go ahead and take Colorado to cover because it's 6.5 in favor of Nebraska, right?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Colorado to cover. I'm going to throw 15 on that, make that my second lock.
All right, and that is his second lock is Colorado plus 6.5, and he is putting 15 on that bad boy. Let's go ahead and put that in there.
I know you wanted me to take that money line.
Hey, you know what? Hey, I'm money line guy over here, baby. We're money line guy over here for Colorado. 10 on that for me on that one. What do you want to be the final game here?
You know what? I want to look at Tennessee and NC State.
Tennessee, NC State. It is Tennessee minus 8.5. The over-under here is 61.
I think Tennessee is going to beat the shit out of NC State. So go ahead and give me Tennessee to beat the shit out of that spread. And I'm going to throw 10 on that. That's my last 10.
All right, there he is. A tenner for Tennessee minus 8.5. I'm going to agree here. I'm going to take Tennessee minus 8.5, and I'll put my final tenner on that. Your parlay comes out, sir, to a very lovely $12,000 if everything lines up. So, hey, $68 to win 12 grand. Hey, it's parlay time, baby. Who's going to hit one first? I was the only one to hit one last season. Oh, no, I take that back. We both hit one last season. I remember we both hit one. You hit one late. I hit one the second week of the season and didn't do well after that. I did okay. I did average. Okay, we still were making money regardless of who you followed last season. So hey, we're just keeping that up, and we're keeping you guys in the black here as we continue on here throughout the season. Well, Zach, any final thoughts before we end this very lengthy, but deservedly lengthy, because again, the NFL picks, they take a while. It was bound to happen.
It was bound to happen. Look out for USF to South Florida to make a little splash against Alabama. That's my last thought.
It was a game last year. Weather delay, all that stuff. Was it 16-0 or something? It was not very impressive last season, but it didn't really dictate how well Alabama did overall. But it was definitely not a coast of a win. So yeah, I keep an eye on that. For me, the one to keep an eye on is keep an eye on Houston to cover. I like Houston plus the 28. I think OU still wins this game. I don't think there's any way they lose it, but maybe they win by 24 and not 28. You know what I'm saying? I think again, you get into that conservative play calling thing. I think that could probably be the case, but it depends on what they decide to do. If they decide to let Jackson air it out, I'm going to be wrong, but we'll see what Brent decides to do as they host in the retro jerseys. It might be a retro score. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's leaning towards in my opinion. But I think OU wins this by at least 28. I'm thinking probably we're looking at like a 48-10 look probably. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, Houston plus 1,700 on the money line if you want to go ahead and dabble in possibly one of the bigger upsets after they lost to UNLV and didn't even fucking score, I don't think. Yeah, so not looking good for Houston heading into the Palace. My Oregon Ducks are 19-point favorites against Boise State, so see if they can cover that after a disappointing showing against Idaho. We'll see how they do against the Broncos in a uniform matchup that you won't want to miss, and a nightcap 9 o'clock start too, so you gotta love that. A good way to end your night if you don't want to watch Texas Tech lose to Washington State, who's a 1-point favorite. I don't know why that game's a pick'em. I guess both those teams are god awful, but maybe we'll see some competitive stuff as the night goes on in games that probably shouldn't be but could be.
Could be.
All right, well, that's going to do it. Episode 76. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I know you guys probably skimmed through this one and got to the parts you wanted to hear, and that's what we're here for. Remember to follow us here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and watch some of our shorts. Our shorts are popping off lately. We average about 400 views per short, so we're getting out there. We're getting some views that trickle down from the shorts, so we'll have those up and everything. And you guys enjoy your weekend. Keep your stick on the ice, baby.
Yeah, Boba Sooner.